YouTube. They always say a project is never fully finished. That certainly applies to car builds, bike builds, airplane builds, that sort of thing. But I think I'm at the point where effectively, aside from some minor things to do, some of it cosmetic, some of it mechanical, the TTf1 project I think is finally done. If you look past my my video history, I originally thought I was going to build some sort of small CC rat bike to have some fun at the track, and that was progressing. And then I think it was Performance Bikes magazine put an article out about some guy who had his own little 750 TT replica based on a Harris frame, and that got me all lusting after, you know, a mid-80s Ducati TTf1. And I won't rehash the last 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, I can't remember how long time. I found a F3 frame out of Japan and started to build that up. So the original plan was to make again a small displacement track bike to have some fun on, and for a variety of reasons, one of which I've been going to the track for 27 years. I'm starting to lose the passion and the desire to do that 5 times a year, and the hassle that entails, and plus a 50 horsepower bike in the Track Day Advanced group, because that's how it's organized, is by experience, not necessarily by speed, because I'm not that fast. This would be a rolling chicane to some guy on a ZX10. So based on that, based on some research with licensing, I decided relatively recently actually to switch gears and turn the TT project into a street bike. So without any further ado, I've shown some teaser videos of me redoing the bodywork and putting in a headlight, but you'll notice I'm inside. Again, not the greatest lighting, but it's windy and busy outside. So here it is, done-ish. So what have I done here? Well, to go back, I went back to Moto Forza fairings, and I got their headlight mount kit. I Frenched that in, as the California hot rodders would explain, and glassed that in, and really pleased with how it turned out. I guess over the years I've figured out, I wouldn't say best practices, but solid practices in fiberglassing, using epoxy resin, using micro balloons or glass beads to help make it a bit more like peanut butter, and made a nice little transition here, and then glassed it all on the inside. And my DeWalt orbital sander is my new favorite tool, amongst many new favorite tools. So that got Frenched in. Headlight works. I'll demonstrate all the lights and that sort of thing shortly. And I decided, for simplicity's sake, like I thought about, you know, a Nardo gray or a bright red or a yellow, or trying to replicate a TT paint job from the 80s. And the bottom line is, this is so far removed from an actual TT replica that I decided to just go my own direction and paint it trim clad white, and or is it Rust-Oleum? Doesn't matter. White epoxy after some high build primer that I smoothed down, and then obviously some 2-pack clear coat over top. So there was a fellow online on eBay that was making the 80s style Ducati, I guess we'll call it double script or 80s script. So I got that. You can get them in various sizes, but I got them in 12 inches, and then tracked down the exact same color for the number plate. And so actually both of the vinyl supplies, the actual Ducati decals and the scrap vinyl or stock vinyl, came out of Canada, so that's nice. And for those of you of a certain age, I was a big BMXer in the 1980s. I can kind of joke about it now, but it was my jam. And one of the companies that was just the coolest, I thought, was a company out of California called 09. And they mainly made number plates and obviously numbers They did build a couple of frames in very low volume, and they were just the coolest. Like the graphics were the coolest. I don't think they were any better 4130 chromoly BMX frame as anything else, but it was the cool niche company out of California that produced in very low volumes. So interestingly, when the Ducati dealer, Wildwood I think it was called, in Winnipeg was going out of business a couple of years ago, I kind of like vultures circling. You show up there and see what they have, and they had a whole stack of 09 numbers, and maybe they bought it off a bike shop, a BMX bike shop that was going out of business in Winnipeg in the 90s. Anyway, I bought a whole stack of those. I think 0 was the only number they had left. So I bought a bunch, and I've sort of been waiting to use these numbers on something. So I got a bunch of black with white outlines and black with red outlines. So there's the white there. The other thing you've noticed in some of my previous videos is that the bike was squeaking, and I tracked it down to. I always thought it was the crankcase breather, and I had it longer and routed around and that sort of thing. But what ended up happening was that I came up with a plastic sleeve, because both this K&N filter and obviously this hose had female ends on them, so I needed a male stent or thing to splice it. And it was odd plastic, and it was fine. It didn't need to be high tech or anything like that. But in amongst its length, it was only about that long. I don't know what I found it off of, but you never threw out anything. And it had a hole drilled in the side of it. And so what ended up happening was, as the crankcase vented, it was like, the recorder you played in grade 4 and drove your parents crazy. It was whistling through there. So again, science, you drill a hole in a tube and you blow through it, it's going to make a noise or make a note. So anyway, I found I think I found a piece of maybe some thin wall aluminum, I think, without a hole in it, and used that as a stent. And of course, it doesn't squeak anymore. So that's a yay for me. So as you can see, obviously this is an Italian bike, and I'd kicked around the idea of an Italian paint scheme, the Italian tricolore, red, white, and green. But I thought, well, for simplicity's sake, I'd paint the bodywork white, because there's only two pieces. I'm leaving the tank bare aluminum, love it or hate it. It's got some patina on it, so why would I paint over it? And if you go to this side of the bike, you can see that it's green. So that's the idea of the red, white, and green. So again, I got the Ducati decal made up in green, found the matching vinyl, got 5 feet of it, cut out a number plate, and then used the 09 decal again. So that justifies the green chain on the bike. Matchy, maybe, I don't know. It's not quite the same green. It's more of a Kawasaki green, but whatever. It's a good chain that has hardly any miles on it. Hopefully I can keep it. So the other exciting news is that aside from a zip around the block, with this license plate on here, I don't know, so you can see the license plate, who cares? The bike's not currently registered anyway, so I won't tell anybody if you don't, but I did take this on a spin on the Queens Highway, 1A here in Brandon, just to test the thing out. It works. It seems like it's smooth. I got it up to 5th gear. I had it up to about 110 kilometers an hour, which is great. And what I noticed is that, again, I knew this going into this, and I'm definitely spoiled by the 130 horsepower or so of this thing. This isn't a fast bike by any means, but it's fun. That's the main thing. I intended it to be a fun bike. So it certainly doesn't have rapid acceleration or high top speed, but it seemed just a bit too laggard. So when I got back to the garage, I immediately started thinking about things, and I pulled both the plugs, and it seems to be running great, like a nice tan brown color. And I know the era of reading plugs like we used to in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is maybe no longer applicable, but they weren't white and they weren't black. So I think I'm definitely in the ballpark with jetting, and I'd even think, maybe it might be a tad lean in the mid-range, so I can always adjust the needles. But The other thing that I did a look at is I thought, okay, well, what's the gearing? And so when I went and did some research, this Monster 600 and the 600 SS had significantly different gearing ratios. So the Monster 600, of which this engine is directly based, 2000, 2001, last of the carbureted 3-wire alternator or stator bikes, 1546, which is crazy. That's a really short gearing, but this being a 5-speed and with probably some distance, I guess I'm not using the correct verbiage, lots of spacing between the internal gear ratios. It's ideally a city bike, but I did some forum looking, and yeah, there's guys that take their 2000 Monster 600 on the highway, and it spins pretty quick at highway speed, but it seems to be fine. So again, to me, being mechanically sympathetic, the idea of putting that large a rear sprocket on this bike and having that low of gearing, just so I have sprightly acceleration in the city, is a bit too much. The 600 SS, which was a few years older than this bike, had 1541, I believe. So again, big difference. 5 teeth on the rear is significant in terms of sprocket sizes. So anyway, I take a look, and what have I got on this thing, just based on memory and what I had on hand? 1539. So even if I went to 600 SS gearing, I'd be going up 2 on the back. And if I went to the Monster 600 gearing, I would go up 8, I think, if my math is correct. So anyway, that's significant. So what I ended up doing is, again, I went to my old friend eBay and started looking for cheap Ducati rear sprockets. And I found a 44 aluminum 520 for $38, brand new. Sprocket Specialists, and I've used their stuff before, so it's a decent quality. So yeah, that's going to be coming in the mail shortly, and you can see I've still got a lot of adjustment in the rear axle. So if I go from a 39 to a 44, I hopefully have enough adjustment in the rear. If not, it's going to mean a new chain anyway, because this is a bit laggard. It's actually interesting to like pulling away from a stop. You have to give it a lot of revs, and there's a bit of chugging. So I think a larger rear sprocket and shorter gearing are going to help. So that's that. The other thing I noticed too was the clutch action. And granted, the last couple of years of my street bikes have had cable clutches, but I am pretty familiar with the Ducati hydraulic clutch. And I don't know if it's a situation of the stock clutch pack starting to wear out. The engine did have about 21,000 kilometers on it when I bought it. Or the clutch slave cylinder. Sorry, it's the only terminology I use. I don't mean to offend, but this actuator cylinder here isn't too big. So what I mean is, when I pull in the clutch, you know, it's not light, but it's not too heavy. But it only the clutch only disengages and the engine starts to move, or the final drive starts to move at the very end of the travel. So either the clutch is very thin, the plates have worn, and they only start to grab as it's nearly fully released, or the amount of fluid I'm pushing with this aftermarket clutch slave cylinder is such that it's moving, it's expanding the plates so much that it only grabs at the end. Anyway, I'm probably not making myself clear, but as a matter of course, probably part of ongoing maintenance, I should look at replacing the clutch pack anyway. What else? I think that's it in terms of the mechanical bit. So when I was planning on turning this into a race bike, I did manage to find a lightweight Ducati alternator that would suit this bike, or at least I think would suit this bike. It's for it said for 900 750. I think the 600 would be the same. And I'm 99% sure the 600 is the same. The only thing is that I did try a lightweight flywheel in my first race bike Ducati, a 900 carburetor model, and I didn't like how it idled, and I was at the point where I wanted just I'd worked with unreliable bikes that needed a whole lot of attention, and you know, when I first fired it up, I thought, oh my god, it's out of timing, which there's no way to well, you could possibly do it, but you have to be a real moron to mount the alternator and throw the timing out so badly, or flywheel to mount it so badly for it to be that far out of time. So I put it on, ran the bike. I didn't like how it idled. It certainly revved up quicker, but it just sounded wrong. So I took it back off again and then moved on to a different, reverted back to stock. And that was the time when getting rid of Ducati Nichols flywheels was simple. So I'm debating whether or not I'm going to put this on just because I like how much it idles. I don't think it's a whole lot lighter, but at the same time, it would be nice to have the bike spin up a little bit quicker. So yeah, let's take a look at the seat. So this is kind of a funny solution, and I've got a backup here, but yeah, there was an old saying a guy I used to race with back in the day said, you know, every privateer race bike has to have a piece of wood on it somewhere. And while this doesn't have any wood on it, this is my seat pad, and you can see it's white and it's some sort of plastic material, and it's held in place by Velcro and some extra padding, and lines up well with the seat, and it's got some nice cushy seat foam on there. And of course it's irregularly shaped because this tank is irregularly shaped, and so then the seat is irregularly shaped, so it's all covered up anyway, but sometimes square isn't correct. But this is actually a plastic cutting board from Walmart because it's polyethylene or polypropylene, one of those two. Apparently one of the two is slightly softer and easier to bend, but a bit of heat in the middle, and it's got a bit of a bend to make the contour. Got this extra foam here for support, and it's just held in place with Velcro. And it was easy to cut. And again, my belt sanders really came in handy here, but it was about the right size. And so, I'll just stick this here. You just line it up like so and put it in place. And again, you're sitting on the darn thing, so the weight of my butt will hold it in place anyway. And this, you know, with some decent seat foam I got off Amazon of all places. So a pack of 4. So again, I'll maybe put a link in the description below, because if you're a club racer or a bike builder and you're looking for some sticky backed foam, it's a really good source. It's tough to cut, but again, that's where the belt sanders come in handy. So I just did a rough cut and finished it up with my sander. I'm not sure I'll keep it. My buddy Scott Wilson from Italian Iron Classics, he has some actual seat foam properly cut to fit this seat, and that's what I'll do if this doesn't work out. But this is sort of a beta test. I might leave it open like this. I might see if I can get it covered in vinyl or leather. I don't know, but I just thought that, you know, when in doubt, you know, go to the housewares department of Walmart and buy plastic cutting boards that you can use to make motorcycle seats. I found about it online and YouTube, and it works a treat, as they say. So anyway, onto the electronics. So I thought this was going to be a lot more challenging than it was. I wouldn't say I'm an electrical guru by any means, but the wiring harness, and I bought a new one, came together fairly quickly, just because I have some experience with it, and I kind of know what these more basic Ducati wiring harnesses are all about. So again, a key switch that I had left in my spares, plugged right into the loom. This is from a totally different model, but they all work. So my favorite Koso Dash the odometer works, speedometer works, and you determine how the speedometer is calibrated based on the diameter of the wheel that's running the speedo sensor, which is right here. And I just made this bracket right there, and it follows the rear brake line up to the dash itself. So again, we've got our turn signals, which work, and not LEDs, but regular halogen bulbs, so they work at the right rotation. Horn, plug ears, pretty loud. Brake light, front, rear, and lights. So at the front, this is just the parking light. This is the only thing that needs to turn on when the key works, according to safeties in my province. And so to cut down on draw, I've got a little rocker switch here. So that's the low beam, and that's the high beam. Low beam, high beam, and then likewise the idiot light on the dash. I'll shut that off, and I'll shut this off. So yeah, pretty pleased with how that all wires up. So again, I've used this phrase many times before in some of my other videos, but when it comes to stuff like this, they say, you know, a project is 90% done and 50% left to go. So I am going to, the other thing too, just to stop that train of thought, I'm a bit underwhelmed with the brakes. I realize there's only one front caliper, but it's a radial caliper. It's a new rotor, which might have been glazed over already. That could be the problem, but brand new EBC rotor, but it had used pads in that. So I'm looking at getting some new EBC brake pads, and maybe I'll try to knock the glaze off that rotor. It hardly has any use to it. Like, that's the other thing too. As you can see on the gauge, this entire bike has been driven 9.6 kilometers. So that could be part of the problem too. But I think new brake pads are in order, and that'll help smarten things up on that end. So yeah, getting back to next steps. I guess come fall, a couple of things that need to get done. Obviously, the bike has to be stripped right down to the bare frame, so I can get that powder coated. You can see it's in kind of rough shape, and I've welded to it and that sort of thing. I've welded a bracket to hold on the tail section too. So that'll get sandblasted and powder coated by Ion Coatings. And I am going to put an oil cooler on this engine. I think what I'll do, having looked at the 848 one on this other project, I found an 848 oil cooler and lines for a good price, as well as these fittings here that go into the engine. And the lovely thing about Ducatis is that they're all universal. So that's on its way in. And I did this in one of my other projects. If you look back far enough, my 2-valve Superbike project, I replaced this valve cover with one from a ST3. And so I got one of those coming in, and so the oil cooler will sit right there. I'll put a screen on it and that sort of thing. But again, not that this is a high performance engine, but you know, everyone likes to keep their oil cool and add a little bit of volume, and oil coolers kind of look cool too. So I'll have to fabricate a bracket to hold the 848 oil cooler there, but I've done it once before on one of my other projects, and I think it kind of looks cool. Yeah, so it's a lot of cosmetic stuff. I'm rambling on here. I'm nearly done. The other thing too is that there's, and I'll sort of end off with this, but there's been some companies that have really helped out, and one of them is Cone Engineering out of California, and I reached out to them. I sent them some pictures of the bike, and you know, they make these stainless steel mufflers in a variety of shapes and sizes and inlets that really are perfect for projects such as this. And I said, hey, you know, I'd really like to represent your company. Do you have a muffler decal or a plate that I can rivet on there? And they actually don't, which is too bad. But I want to put a shout out to Cone Engineering. I've got half of mine you can still get Termignoni rivet plates to put on here. And again, that would be a bit of blasphemy for everyone involved, because the titanium header pipes came from Japan and this came from California, and it was all mounted by I mocked it up, but a lot of the tricky welding was done by a welding guru in Brandon here. I might just leave it, but Termignoni, I don't know. I should probably just, none of it is Termignoni, so I shouldn't blaspheme like that. So yeah, I might do something like that. So yeah, shout out, of course, got to have Snoopy here. Ironcraft, he's the guy in Brandon who's a welding guru. On this bike, he's welded mild steel, 4130 steel, 2 or 3 different tempers and grades of aluminum, stainless steel, and titanium. So Brent, you know who you are. You're a genius. Monoforza, they supplied the bodywork as well as the even the headlight bezel that I used. I was a bit annoyed, and it really wasn't their fault, but there was a bit of a screw up in the Czech Postal Service, and so the headlight bezel ended up taking like 2 months to get here, and it was just a screw up with the post office. So really, not their fault. So they still have some pretty cool, unique bodywork if you're looking for your own project. And then Frank's MX Parts out of Holland, I think, somewhere in Europe. Anyway, it's a long way to get carburetor jets, but his website's the best. It's hassle-free. I've bought Kean parts from him. I bought Mikuni parts from him. It's all well represented on the website. So again, if you're looking for carburetor parts, give them a look. It does take a while to get there, but just the hassle of trying to find some of these parts nowadays in North America, it's just simpler to go with an expert. And again, to wrap up, the frame will go to Ion Coatings here in Brandon, so they've done some work for me before. I know that they do a good job. And lastly, Celtic Machining, who did the work on the engine. I think I mentioned them in a previous post. I built the engine and I sent the cylinders off to Faraci and did all the top end work. But they did some neat machining in the case for me to use an O-ring to prevent a common vertical cylinder weeping problem. And again, real engineers, good attention to detail, quality workmanship. They know what they're doing. And again, it's a local company, so if you're watching this from, I don't know, Calgary or Kuala Lumpur, you might not have access to them, but they certainly helped out, and a bit of shout out to them. So anyway, this is it. Like I said, done. I've ridden it on the street. I still have a few steps to go through to get it registered and licensed for the road. There's still some cosmetic things I want to do, but for all intents and purposes, 28 minutes and 13 or 14 seconds into this video, I'm, quote, done. So I'll post some more updates as they come, and it'll probably be a while before anything substantial gets put up, because it'll just be minor cosmetic things from here on in. So thanks for watching. I know I've got a few hundred subscribers, and a few comments come in every time of people who appreciate my videos. So thanks for watching, and likely I'll post a update on the Z900, some of the work I've done on that, and yeah, some major decisions and major work is upcoming on the 848. So cross fingers, some of the items I have inbound cure some of the problems I've been, not problems, but minor issues I've been having with that bike. So again, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and yeah, we'll check back. You can check back. If you have subscribed, you'll get a notification when I post something else. So anyway, thanks again, and keep the rubber side down.